Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business. Hey, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Shannon Adkins joining us. Shannon, welcome.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So Shannon, for those who aren't familiar with you and your work, just take a moment and explain what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the CEO of a management consulting firm called Future State. We're headquartered in Oakland, California, which is right by San Francisco. And we work with mostly mid to enterprise size organizations that are going through transformation. That's kind of every company these days. Our clients range from global biotech companies to local financial institutions, food and consumer packaged goods companies, and then, of course, here in the Bay, a very strong technology practice as well.
So you're the CEO of Future State. I mean, how many years have you been in this industry, kind of doing what you do to be able to get to the point where you became CEO?
That's a great question. In the mid-90s, I started out actually at this company, and I was pretty much straight out of college, English major from UC Santa Barbara. And the founder of this company, which was at that time called Tech Pros, hired me to help start up and begin the web consultancy business. You know, back in the day, we called it the World Wide Web. Mm-hmm. And we talked about building websites, and that was really our core offering. And when I left Tech Pros, I went to a number of early .com agency startups. So probably the most famous of those would have been Think New Ideas, which if you remember that firm, it was started by this Adam Curry, the VJ from MTV. He was the CTO. So wild and crazy times in San Francisco in the late 90s. So I did 4 or 5 years of consultancy in the early days of tech and online transformations, and then actually moved out of consultancy and into a career in industry, 8 years in high-tech industry and in banking, in financial services, and then found myself a new mom and doing a long commute from Oakland to Mountain View, and decided that I would come back to my roots and come back to Tech Pros, now called Future State, and restart my consulting business, my consulting career, and my sales career, and took a pretty significant leap back into this world in 2010. And at that time, our business was struggling. We had way too much concentration in 1 or 2 clients, and our profit margins were being squeezed by those clients. And we were having a hard time actually selling consulting. We were selling more staff augmentation, and that was becoming quite commoditized. So when I came back to the company in 2010, I started really selling outcomes-based consulting services. Sold about $7 million worth of business in my first year back at the company. And that catapulted us into this transformation that we've been on for these past 8 years. And the name change was a part of that. Also moving from the suburbs of Walnut Creek into the urban center, transit-oriented hub here of Oakland, shifting our client base and our deliverables and our capabilities pretty drastically. And then taking over as CEO in 2015.
So I definitely want to dig into how you sold $7 million in consulting services your first year back. But before we get to that, just talk to me for a moment about, you mentioned that you made this leap, like you took this leap of faith, kind of going from industry. I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were earning a nice salary. There was a sense of stability. You took that leap partly because you're a young mother and didn't want to do the whole commute, which anyone that's been to San Francisco or LA just knows how bad that can. But what was going on in your mind? I mean, why take that leap?
For me, it had less to do about wanting to get back into consulting and more to do with wanting to be the master of my own destiny and to work in an environment. I had always counted my time at Tech Pros as a young woman as, probably my most formative career defining moments, because the CEO gave me so much accountability and responsibility at such a young age to build this web practice from the ground up. And I certainly wasn't qualified to do it. I knew nothing about the internet at all. I didn't even own a computer. So that really struck me at an early age about the opportunity to create a culture where people are free to swing for the fences and make mistakes and be appreciated and honored regardless of sort of background and expertise and credibility or pedigree or whatever that might look like. And I was finding kind of the opposite to be true as I moved through the ranks in corporate America. I was a director And the question was, what does it take to push my career forward to the next level, to become a VP? And what was coming up for me, and I don't know that it was 100% true, but the skills I would need to develop were my skills in corporate politics and managing up. And that I would have to sacrifice some of my commitment and compassion for my team and our customers in order to make that leap, in addition to really needing to work and commute. So taking my own fate into my own hands, being accountable for my own results as it related to sales, bringing my expertise to bear and helping other organizations go through change would be this, interesting and unique opportunity for me to give it a shot. And I thought, well.
Right. All right. So you mentioned about, wanting to kind of like realize your potential, not wanting to deal with the politics, like all that stuff is so common. I hear this very often, and I think that would resonate with a lot of people listening to this. You also mentioned that though when you made that leap in your first year back, you sold $7 million in consulting services. How did you do that? And especially, how did you do that your first year back? Like as specific as you can be. Would really just love to kind of get some insight into that, because you also mentioned that there was a lot of things going on in the business that maybe you recognized needed improvement. But your first year back, given all of that, you still sold $7 million.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the biggest thing is I took a $100,000 pay cut and went to almost 100% commission, and then the sole breadwinner for my family. So it was a do or die moment, and I knew the number I needed to hit to be able to make the money that I needed to make.
Was that by choice or?
By choice. Yeah, by choice. Yeah.
So, okay, let's just pause there for a moment, because there's something going on in there that we need to explore. Like what, from a mindset perspective, from a decision-making perspective, why did you do that?
I reached a point in my career where I knew I could get a job, making over $150,000 a year without a ton of concern. What I hadn't experienced in my 10 years in industry was a culture where I felt that I belonged and that I'm going to use a soft word here, but where I was loved. And it was worth it for me to take a chance on myself and give myself the opportunity to demonstrate that I could produce those results, that I could earn that income for my family without sacrificing myself.
Do you think that if you would have taken a base salary or just more of a set salary as opposed to commission, that you still would have created that $7 million in sales?
I don't think so. And it's actually a question for me as I build this business now, because I have folks on my team who are accountable for sales and delivery. And I would never ask them to take that pay cut. The company was in tough shape when I came back. I didn't really know that, but my hiring was a risk for them as well. And we're not in that position now. I would not ask my team members to take a salary cut. But I do know that I woke up every morning incredibly hungry and committed to taking action consistent with my desire to build that business and earn that commission check.
Were you scared?
And no, I wasn't scared. And then that sounds a little bit privileged, but I wasn't scared. I'd done a lot in my career, so I knew I would be okay. And I also have an incredibly supportive husband who said, well, as long as we're together and you're happy, that's way better than you commuting 3 hours a day and being miserable and not feeling compelled by your work. So,
love it. Yeah.
So those two things together, I knew, I give myself 6 months. If I don't look like I'm on track to hit the numbers that I need to hit, then I'll make another choice and look for a new opportunity in a tech company in the Bay. We're in San Francisco. So even in tough economic times in the San Francisco Bay, if you've got a good track record and you are well connected, you'll find work. It might not be the highest pay, but you'll be able to survive if you've got that track record. And I did have that.
So I understand that part. So then, given now that you have this hunger, you kind of set yourself up that you're only eating, right? If you're out there hunting, and so you have to produce. So what did you do? I mean, I'm trying to figure out here what lessons all of our listeners can take from this, because I'm very interested to find out, like, specifically, what were you doing on a daily and weekly basis and even a monthly basis in order to create that level of sales?
Yeah, there was a little bit of planning, right? And then a lot of action and a fair amount of luck as well. So the planning was articulating what are the 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 accounts that I want to be working inside of, and what do I know about them and who do I know there and why do I know that they need our help? And the action was outbound research and cold calling and emailing and connecting with folks that I'd worked with over the course of many years, but also people that I just simply knew and asking them for introductions into, I knew I wanted to work with Dolby. I knew I wanted to work with Wells Fargo, and I knew I wanted to work with Genentech. I happened to have worked at Wells Fargo, so I had resources and connections there. I had folks that I knew that worked at Genentech, and I had folks that I knew that worked at Dolby. So I was able to kind of reach out through there. Also did some work with SunPower that year. So sort of 4 accounts that I went after with a great degree of focus. And then from there, got some luck. What was happening with Roche and Genentech at that moment in time was Roche had bought Genentech, and they were looking to have someone support the integration of 18 IT systems across the globe with 80,000 impacted users. And that project was a $3 million deal. And then the other big deal was the Wells Fargo project that I closed, which was the articulation and creation of an audit university for all of their auditors. The interesting thing about that was I sold something that we were going to be doing for the first time. And I think that's probably the common denominator is if I'd only sold what our company had been able to deliver, I definitely would not have hit that number. So I had to sell what I knew I could deliver, even
what gave you the confidence to do that, though? Because a lot of people would think, well, yeah, we don't yet have this. So they wouldn't necessarily have the confidence to go out and sell something that doesn't yet exist. What gave you that confidence, or how did you approach that from a mindset perspective?
My thinking was if I know I can do it, or I know people that can do it, then I can sell it. So even if they don't work for Future State, the example of that is the auditing university, our recruiters, when I said we want to work on this platform, we're going to create an online portal. It's going to be an online university. Every auditor is going to access it. I need technologists to build it. And my recruiters looked at me like, what? I don't know any of those people. But I did, because I'd run the Intuit partner platform and the developer network at Intuit for 3.5 years. So I called up one of my buddies who ran a software development company and said, hey, do me a solid, help me figure out how to scope this, and I'll hire you to do the work. But you got to help me pitch it kind of on a whim here. And if we close it, then it's your business. And the same for the woman who ended up being our lead instructional designer on the program. I asked the recruiters to find me the smartest human on the planet that does talent strategy and instructional design, the best person on the planet for that project. And my recruiter said, well, how much do you want to pay her? And when's her start date? And when's her end date? And I said, I don't know. Mm-hmm. What's the smartest person on the planet on this topic cost? And I'll sell her at that rate. Or, I'll sell the project at that rate. And it was a real struggle for them, but it wasn't a struggle for me to find her. I, went out to LinkedIn and the keyword search for what I wanted and reached out to her and said, I have this really big opportunity and I'd like you to come pitch it with me. If we win it, I can pay you whatever your market rate is. And she came back. I was going to be charging $175 an hour for instructional design, which is high, but I marked her up the way that I needed to and sold the business. And we delivered a really extraordinary program with folks that to this day are still collaborating and connecting with my firm.
So Shannon, when you identified that you want to win business at Dolby or Genentech, as you mentioned, or these other companies, you knew some people either at those companies or that could introduce you to someone at those companies. Just walk us through what kind of approach did you use? Because people listening to this might say, yeah, I know somebody who knows somebody there, or maybe I even know someone in this organization. But what's an effective approach for getting into that company if the person that you know isn't the actual decision maker? I mean, what should people do to get a seat at the table?
Well, I think the first conversation is really important, and being facile and able to begin consulting immediately. So for me, it's understanding something about what's happening in that business. For Wells Fargo, it was knowing that, the organization really cared about being world-class in everything. And understanding that when they came to us and asked in the first conversation, what they said was, well, we might need some instructional design help for a course for auditors. And being able to take that conversation and really understand, but what strategy does that connect to? And how does that strategy further the business in general? And what are the challenges and constraints that Wells Fargo is facing? And what matters most to your organization? And really understanding that desire to be world-class opened up a whole different conversation, right? Well, You're not going to get to world-class with an instructional designer working on a course. This needs to be a comprehensive and detailed analysis and understanding of the current state and the future state, and a plan to sort of bridge those gaps. So I think it is a deep level of business acumen, but of course, anybody who's getting into consulting has that. It's the confidence in your own ability to begin consulting immediately, which for some people means deep homework, right? And making sure you're prepped on the back end about what are the constraints and concerns for that organization, for that particular function, and for the industry at large. and then showing up ready to add value and produce results for them in the very first conversation.
And why did they choose to work with your company and not, one of the other many consulting firms that are out there? While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
So that's the part that's a bit of I'm not sure why people said yes right then, because I would say, don't look at the website. don't go to the Tech Pros website. Ignore our name. Talk only to me. I commit to you that I will execute on this, even though it's not what our company is known for.
So let me just, for a moment there, you're saying that you actually told the prospective buyers that you were speaking with, don't look at our website. What you're going to see there is not in line with what I'm telling you right now, but you need to trust me that I can actually deliver for you.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm asking because a lot of people, will spend a great deal of time, like a lot of consultants will work on their website or their business plan or their presentation. They're getting all these things ready, wanting them to be perfect. But here you are without all these items done, to perfection, and you're winning $1 million plus deals.
Yeah.
How is that possible? I mean, just what gave you the confidence to allow you to do that rather than say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to make sure and I'll work with our web team or whatever it is to get everything in place perfectly. And then I'm going to go out and win business because I'll have, the best website or the right messaging. Or how did you go out without those things?
I think there were 2 factors. One was I didn't have the time to wait for that. The second was I knew the company didn't have the time or the dollars to invest in it. And I guess the third is after a career in marketing and in technology and building websites for other people and building websites for myself, it seemed intuitive to me that, I guess the other thing to know is that for the 10 years I was in the industry, I was a buyer of consulting services and I was a buyer of multimillion-dollar contracts of consulting services. And I never hired the big consulting companies, never once hired a PwC or a Deloitte or a Razorfish. Not that I didn't have them bid on things, but I always hired the person who looked me in the eyes, told me that my outcomes mattered as much to them as they mattered to me, that I trusted could get things done because I worked with them in the past, either in a consulting capacity or not in a consulting capacity, and with whom I had deep and profound trust. So I think I intuitively knew that in this business, people are selecting a partner to execute on a core piece of business that done correctly means their career is going to be catapulted to the next level, and done badly puts their job on the line. So they're hiring us for their most important priorities. And so I think it was that knowledge as a buyer of what I was buying and what I wasn't buying. And I was never buying the methodology. I was never buying the competencies. I was never buying the brand. I was buying the individuals that I knew would go to the mat to make sure that I was able to achieve that goal and that outcome for the dollars that I had available to invest in that. So if I knew it was worth $250,000 to get that outcome and they said they could get it done for $250,000, I knew they wouldn't come back and say $450,000 after we started down the path.
Did you ever hire someone when you were in the position where you were hiring consultants and consulting firms and so forth, who you did not have a previous relationship with? Because everything that you've shared so far, even as part of Future State, when you kind of rejoined and went out and won the $7 million in your first year back, you leveraged the relationships and the network that you had. But what about for those people who don't have that network or have identified companies they want to work with, but they don't have an in? What's the best practice there? What works best in order to give them a chance to win business?
Yeah, I mean, many of the relationships I had where I sold weren't actually the person who ended up buying, right? So the relationship that I had at Wells Fargo is not who ended up buying from me at Wells Fargo. They gave me the insight and the credibility to know what was happening in the company at that moment in time. But my ultimate buyer wasn't someone I'd ever worked with before. So I think it's pretty hard to get in if you don't have some level of understanding and insight about the business and the challenges that they're facing. Of course, most businesses are facing the same challenges. So it doesn't take much to figure out, well, you've got a problem with silos. You've got a challenge because people aren't effectively communicating across functions. You've got challenges with data. Your decision-making models are poor because every company that we work with has those challenges. That next level of detail is, and right now your organization is facing some turmoil because you had a leader that swapped out. And that leader was really well beloved. So people are feeling uncertain and concerned about the future of the business. So that next level of granularity, the empathy, the understanding of people's emotions, the understanding of where people are at, the understanding of what their fears and concerns are, and being able to bring empathy to those fears and concerns, plus expertise to solve the tactical problems, I think is what people want to hear. And then people want to hear, I'm not going to stop until we're successful. So you and I are in this together, and I won't sleep if it's not on track to be successful. Going back to the question about what made me confident to sell it is I knew that if for whatever reason the talent that I brought in wasn't executing or anybody else on the project left, that I would stay up all night making sure that the coursework was developed properly, that the Excel spreadsheet was accurate, and that I wouldn't go to sleep until I was confident that what I'd sold and what I'd promised was going to be delivered.
Shannon, when you worked at Odesk and Intuit, your achievements included growing teams with a lot of success. For the consultant listening to this that has a small team right now or wants to grow a team, what are the best practices that you've seen to growing a consulting business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we built Future State, when I took over as CEO, the number one question I wanted to answer was, why does the world need another management consulting company? I don't think that the world does need another management consulting company. But what I do think the world needs is a company that brings compassion and commitment to their team members, to their community, and to their clients. So we operate our business on a triple bottom line. We're a certified B Corp, and our purpose and our mission and why we exist is really about changing the world of business, changing the world of work so that people have a better experience at work and customers have a better experience with products and the planet thrives inside of a capitalistic world. You got to be able to answer that question no matter what business you're running in the 21st century if you want to attract and retain top talent and build a team. It can't be about, I'm trying to save for my retirement, or, I'm interested in maximizing revenue and growth. That's not enough for the most talented people on the planet. They want to make a difference in the world, and they want to work for a company that's committed to making a difference in the world. And then I think, after that, it's really understanding what makes everybody in your organization tick and doing the best you can to optimize and design to give them the opportunity to do their best work. So we are odd in that we're focused on utilization, we're focused on billability, but we're equally focused on what our team members really love to do, the kinds of clients that truly inspire them, and how they want to grow and evolve as a consultant. And we do our best to fit the pieces of that puzzle together in a way that our team members are able to get as much out of these engagements as our clients are, and grow and evolve in each engagement.
What's one of the biggest mistakes that you see consultants making?
Well, I think that the consulting industry, and I'm sure it's different depending on how you're consulting, but I do think in management consulting, the history of management consulting is we're the smartest people in the room, and you're in a lot of trouble if you don't get our expert and insight. We are the only key to your future success. So there's a lot of fear in the sell, and there's a lot of ego in the delivery. And at times that shows up as people taking credit for the work of an internal team member, or gathering the ideas and insights from an internal team member, but packaging them up prettily and calling them our own. And that model, first and foremost, I think buyers are starting to not believe it because the world is moving so fast. There's no way that I can be expert on your business as much as you are expert on your business. Mm-hmm. So the best thing I can do is be the best at listening and the best at partnering and the best at asking the right questions and then the best at actually getting work done and delivering alongside you and learning alongside you and learning in partnership with our clients and saying, wow, we thought that was the right approach. Turns out it isn't because this factor has changed in the world since the last time we worked on a project like this. And that humility and true open collaboration is unusual in our industry. But I think it's what clients want. I mean, it's what our clients tell us is why they're not hiring some of the bigger consultancies anymore, is they're tired of the boilerplate solution, that I know best, the you're in trouble if you don't listen to me, and I have some sort of data or knowledge about your industry that you couldn't possibly understand. I don't think that model is going to work for long if it is even working today.
How many employees does Future State have today?
We're at about 85 right now. So we fluctuate between, I'd say, 70 and 100.
Okay. And so as a CEO, of a company with 85 or so employees, what do you actually spend most of your time doing each day?
I still spend a lot of time selling, and I'm not sure that I should be, but I do still spend a lot of time out there meeting with clients, talking with them about our history, sharing with them about our vision, understanding their concerns, their objectives, their issues, bringing those leads forward, and then passing them on to my team members so that they can collaborate with the client to develop solutions and execute on those programs together. I also spend a lot of time with each of my team members, finding out what they're passionate about, what they're working on, what they're committed to. And then for us at Future State, I spend a lot of time in the community understanding the challenges for the Bay Area as a region. I'm a member of the Bay Area Council, understanding what is affecting our local economy and our social environment. We've certainly got a lot of issues in the Bay as it relates to equity. Housing pricing is outrageous. People are leaving the city faster than they're arriving. There is a real lack of equity and opportunity for folks of color. And, being a part of that conversation and committing to creating more equitable workplaces and creating more opportunity and recognizing and connecting the dots that if our communities aren't thriving, our businesses are definitely not going to thrive, right? At least not for long. Sure. We are only as good as the community at large. And there's work for us to do as a business community to make sure that we're bringing opportunity to everybody.
You mentioned that you still spend, a chunk of your time doing sales. What right now, even from a marketing perspective, would you say is the most effective for you and for your company to generate leads?
That's part of what I'm still trying to figure out. So I have a bias that to be able to effectively sell consulting services at the VP to C-suite level, you need to be able to add value in the very first conversation. And that means you're a salesperson who's also an incredibly seasoned consultant or business person, and you are well connected and you are able to establish trust with folks, in those positions that are facing those challenges very quickly. So we have not found success with a lead gen model or a BD model that is not person-to-person relationship based. We are a woman-owned business, and we've recently begun to engage with procurement organizations to see if that might be an opportunity for us to get broader and wider inside of the organizations that we work in faster. But that's not yet paying off. And we've done thought leadership marketing to an extent. I think what seems to be working best right now are actually convening smallish groups of people on a core topic that we're passionate and interested in, that others are passionate and interested in, and then bringing that opportunity to collaborate and connect with potential buyers and the friends and colleagues of potential buyers in a more intimate setting has been leading to opportunities that are opening and closing for us as business, being seen as a thought leader, but not as much in the published pieces, much more in the one-to-one dialogues.
Good insights. Thank you for sharing those. So Shannon, you have the responsibility to lead quite a sizable organization. What specifically helps you as a person, to stay sharp and to perform at your highest level?
Talking to my customers. Yeah. So we do a client closeout meeting. Every single engagement that ends, I talk to the customer about what worked, what didn't work, and how do we improve. And I talk to them about what's resonating about Future State? Why did you pick Future State when you could have picked Deloitte and probably were pressured to pick Deloitte? What mattered most to you, and how do we shift and evolve our offering to meet the needs of our clients? When I took over as CEO, that's a practice I implemented, as well as assessing our client engagement with a Net Promoter Score survey. So asking people how likely they are to recommend Future State. And we are at a Net Promoter Score of 86.5, which is world-class, USAA levels of client satisfaction. And when I began, I think I thought we should look more like a traditional consulting company in order to be successful. And as I did those interviews and as I did that insight, I learned how important it was for us to actually stay true to what makes us different, which is the way that we treat people. It's also the fact that we're almost entirely women, which is unusual in our industry. We're not only women by design, it just happens to be that way. And that does bring a certain element of a collaborative way of working with our clients, a low ego and a practical way of working with our clients that seems to be really resonating and making a difference. So that's the thing that keeps me the sharpest. What I'd like to do more of is more reading and more understanding of some of these large trends that are definitely impacting my clients today. Artificial intelligence and blockchain. And there's some really cool applications of what people are doing with blockchain for good and how they're using blockchain to actually drive social change, which is super fascinating and a place I'd love for us to be collaborating and partnering, but I don't know enough about it yet to be able to sell it. Sure. And I think those are probably the places that I'd like to be doing more investigation and research.
Fantastic. Well, Shannon, I want to thank you again for coming on here today, sharing, some of your journey with us and best practices. There's a lot of value in what you just offered. And I think anyone listening to this can certainly take some, if not all of it, and apply it to your business and see some nice improvements. So thank you again for coming on, Shannon. Before we wrap up here, I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and about Future State. What's the best place for them to go to do that?
We are at www.futurestate.com. And we do have a newsletter that you can subscribe to. That's going to include kind of what we're reading as well as what we're publishing and where we're going to be. So the events that we'll be going to. We're also on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on Twitter under the handle of Future State Inc. in most cases. And I am very active on LinkedIn and happy to accept any connections from anybody at any time that's looking to grow their business and understand what we're doing. And that's Shannon Adkins on LinkedIn.
There we go. We'll have all this linked up, everyone. If you just head to the show notes, go to consultingsuccess.com, type in Shannon Adkins, or just head over to the podcast page. We'll have a full transcript and all the links, all the resources here for you to easily access. Shannon, again, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.